Let's face it, credits might be the early grind in Elite, and you can certainly reach a point where credits effectively become meaningless in this game, but until you get to that point, having a nice stash of a few billion credits in the bank is what allows you the freedom to play the game in novel and enjoyable ways. The best way to make money have changed radically since the end of the Fargoid War in early 2025, so we're heading into 2026 with a radically different set of options, mostly worse than before, to fill the bank with those shiny credits. The glory day of Fargoid Spire sites and of 40 million credit Orthros bounties are well behind us, and with them, the pinnacle of almost 4 billion credits per hour, which could have been achieved at the time. If you're not interested in a quick recap on what changed and how it affects credit making, feel free to skip to the next chapter of this video. The biggest changes from last year involve changes to the exceptionally lucrative endgame activity of anti-Xeno combat, a generous approach to community goals, the introduction of a sort of player-driven economy with the advent of Trailblazers colonization, and the introduction of some activities tied to the newly released ships. The credit payout from AX, which, let's be honest, was absurdly good and deserved a nerf, was reduced in a number of compounding ways. Orthros class interceptors cannot presently be found in the game, and their bounty was drastically reduced from 40 million to 15 million even before they absconded, as the Spire and Alert scenarios which spawned them have both gone inactive. The end of a war entails that Fargoid combat missions are no longer available, and furthermore, popular ground-based anti-Xeno combat zones are also not available. Last but not least, the introduction of Power Play 2.0 eliminated what was maybe the most powerful perk in the 1.0 edition of the same. The ability to double Pilot Federation bonds has been removed from the game. On the upswing instead, FDev-sponsored community goals have seen their payout grow to very generous levels in the past months. These are obviously time-bound and vary in nature, but are usually focused on hauling and bounty hunting, with the occasional mining and exploration goal thrown in for good measure. The introduction of colonization, with its massive hauling requirements, has created a substantial market where players pay other players to load up their fleet carriers for them. The introduction of the Type 11 and of squadron perks has made laser mining somewhat more rewarding, though it still remains underwhelming compared to the best techniques. And note that core mining and subsurface mining were not affected. Net-net, the most lucrative activities in the game can nowadays yield up to 1 billion credits per hour when truly min-maxed, and a more typical 300 million credits per hour when performed more organically. While that is an almost 4x decrease from last year, it is still a very significant amount, and enough to earn you a fleet carrier in a couple of weeks of dedicated play without the need to utterly no-life it. Let's take a look at what will earn you the most in 2026. In the past edition of this video, I have ranked activities in a precise order based on my best estimate of the credits per hour which each activity peaked at. Reality is, conditions, experience, and technique vary immensely, and it's impossible to be that precise. And furthermore, a sustained average is probably a better everyday representation than a min-max peak. So take that in mind when listening to this. It is possible to make quite a bit more than the values listed here. The values are listed on an average effort basis. Also, instead of individually ranking them, I've decided to group them by earning potential. Class C, which can earn you about 10 to 50 million credits per hour. In here, you'll find simply the just do what's fun for you. The simplest advice, but possibly the best advice, is to ignore this theory altogether and just play the game in whichever way is fun for you. You can expect anywhere in the range between 10 and 15 million credits per hour doing regular hauling, casual bounty hunting, random exploration, simple mining, passenger missions, or anything you fancy really. It won't get you fleet carrier money anytime soon, but perhaps beelining to carrier ownership isn't your goal, and that's okay. Class B, which can generate about 50 to 300 million credits per hour. Embark on the road to riches. A great way to start out in Elite Dangerous is by gathering high-value exploration data using a mapped route. The Road to Riches website is a tool designed to create just that for you, and is a great way to get started in credit making Elite, requiring minimal investment and carrying truly minimal risk. Just beware of hostiles, as getting blown up before you cash in will result in you losing the data you gathered and thus your profits. Find a link to a website in the video description below. Go on a booze cruise. About once a month, PTN, the Pilot Trade Network, organizes a so-called booze cruise where they shuffle commanders to the very top of the galactic plane at Rackham's Peak to sell wine at the ludicrously profitable prices while the station is in a public holiday state. Know that it's an outpost, so large pad-sized ships cannot be used for this one. Credits are good, maybe not crazy good, but the experience of traveling that far up with a great group is crazy good, and it's something every elite commander should try at least once in their careers, as the journey is worth it. More info is available with the Pilot Trade Network player organization, link below. Trick your way to completing winged mining missions. Who needs to mine when you can just buy commodities on the open market and use them to complete mining missions, which in turn you can share with your wingmates for even greater profits? I personally find this one really gamey and I'm not a fan, but if you like the idea of pretending to mine while sharing missions with your buddies, it does work and can be very profitable. Stare at a rock and hold down a button. The introduction of a Type 11 has made laser mining somewhat viable as a money-making technique, especially in platinum hotspot in metallic rings, and not metal-rich ones. Yeah, game is confusing. If staring at rocks holding down your fire button before moving on to the next one is your kind of gameplay, this is the most profitable version of it right now. Of course, there's also the far more engaging core mining and subsurface mining, but those pay a lot less. Stack massacre missions. While some of the best spots to stack massacre missions have been overrun by colonization efforts, massacre mission stacking remains extremely profitable for the more combat-inclined commanders. This activity entails loading up with combat missions from various factions before heading to a target system to blast away at targets. Like many combat things in Elite, it's best done in a group, but it does work well solo too. A variation of this technique, known as AFKT10 or Away from the Keyboard Type 10, entails dropping a fire-at-will turreted weapon Type 10 with strong bi-wheel shields, loading it with some cargo to provoke pirates attack, stocking up on massacre missions, heading to a low-intensity resource extraction site, then giving it a slight spin and flight assist off. You then leave Elite running in the background or you go touch some grass. When you come back, your essentially unkillable Type 10 will have racked up a bunch of bounties and completed a number of massacre missions while you're away. If you like idle RPGs, that's as close as it gets to converting Elite into one. If you actually want to play the game, there's better options. Hunt Thargoids in the Pleiades. The Orpheus Bonanza may be over, but bounties on other Thargoid interceptors were actually buffed to somewhat compensate. Once you get the hang of it and have the right equipment and training, Cyclops and Basilisk interceptors in particular can be killed pretty quickly even by yourself, for decent money. A more skill-reliant end-game activity that won't be for everyone, but which I personally find less soul-crushing than the staring at a rock method.
Halfway there. Now is also a good time to mention that more than half of you are not subscribed to this channel. If you don't want to miss out on Elite Dangerous news, shenanigans and guides, please consider taking a moment to hit that like, subscribe, and notification bell button below. Your support means the world to me. Thank you, and let's get back to credit making.
And for Class A activities, which can generate between 300 to 500 million credits per hour. Fill player-issued orders to load up carriers with colonization commodities. The easiest way to make the most money right now is to fill player-issued orders to fill up carriers for colonization. The going rate varies, but it's generally in the ballpark of 20 to 60,000 credits per ton. That's up to 50 million for a quick round trip between a refinery and a carrier on a Type 9 with 750 tons of cargo. Find orders to fill on a number of Discords, forums, and other player communities. Some resources have been linked below. With interest in colonization somewhat waning, however, there may be downward pressure on those prices. Go on an exobiology first footfall trip looking for stratum tectonica. Exobiology pays a huge bonus for scans made on planets where you hold the first footfall achievement. Heading in a random direction a few thousand light years practically guarantees an abundance of systems to step on for the first time. And look for stratum tectonicas on high metal content worlds. On first Footfall Worlds, they pay 95 million credits each. Needless to say, it is incredibly profitable, though the initial and return travel time needs to be factored in. It's also very low investment, as all you need is a store-bought Artemis suit, a ship with a semi-decent jump range, and a fuel scoop. Just beware of hostiles on your return trip. Being blown up entails losing the data. Assault the remaining anti-Xeno combat zones. Possibly the most endgame activity still present in Elite Dangerous, assaulting the last bastion of anti-Xeno forces in the California Nebula is almost always done in an organized group, either with your friends or occasionally as a larger event with the Anti-Xeno Initiative. Overwhelming firepower, speed tanking, and the liberal use of heat sinks is the name of the game here, as you will be facing up to 2 Hydra interceptors concurrently. With a good group, however, this is possibly still the highest paying activity in the game. Mention for Class X, a variable but often meaningful category. Participate in community goals. FDev has turned to making community goals very lucrative. While the terms obviously change, as do the activities involved, keep an eye out for what community goals may be running, as chances are that they may provide some of the best credit-making opportunities in the game. For reference, the community goal associated with the launch of Type 11 boosted mining profits by a whopping 600%. There's big credits to be made in community goals these days. What's your money-making technique? I'm always keen on hearing from the community, and not a week goes by without me learning something new about this amazing game from one of you in the comments below. So let me know your thoughts. Glory to mankind, Commander Mechan, over and out.